And it's official. Alex Golesh will be the next head football coach of the Auburn Tigers. A name that kind of started to surface in the last 24 to 48 hours. For a large portion of this process, it's been John Sumrall, and if John Sumrall doesn't work out, then it's going to be DJ Durkin. That's kind of been the narrative around this whole Auburn coaching search. And then Pete Thamel goes live on game day on Saturday morning, and he made the statement, something to the effect of, it feels like Arkansas and Auburn are at an intersection with Alex Golesh. And that was the first time to where I had heard that it was that far down the road, and, I kind of perked up. And as the day plays out, you're still kind of wondering, well, what if DJ Durkin leads Auburn to an upset victory over Alabama tonight? It would be kind of hard to tell him no, maybe. Ultimately, Auburn battles hard but loses a close game, which has kind of been the story of Auburn football, unfortunately, over the last couple of seasons. But Alex Golesh is the guy. And now that as all these dominoes are starting to fall, Lane Kiffin to LSU, and now John Sumrall to Florida, as all these dominoes start to fall, and we kind of learn how some of this played out, it appears like, obviously, that Auburn beat Arkansas for Alex Golesh, but there's some reporting out there that Ole Miss was in the Alex Golesh sweepstakes as well, aware that Lane Kiffin was going to be leaving, and that maybe Auburn was able to beat out Arkansas and Ole Miss for the services of Alex Golesh. So I know that there are a lot of fans out there that are upset with the Group of 5 head coach hire, and you feel like a program like Auburn needs to bring in a proven Power 4 coach. And I understand that line of thinking. You're not out of bounds, in my opinion, for thinking that. The way that I choose to look at it is to look at, for one, the market and what's available and what is a realistic option for Auburn at the current time. And it's not often that the LSU job, the Florida job, the Penn State job, the Auburn job, and then the Ole Miss job all become open in the same year. And the Ole Miss job is a better job because of Lane Kiffin. It's a better job than it has been ever, really. He's got them to unprecedented heights. And if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're thinking 11-1 and this guy leaves us high and dry. That's tough. But they announced that Pete Golding is going to be the interim head coach. Well, they said he's not even going to be interim head coach. He's going to be the permanent head coach. They announced today that they're going with their former defensive coordinator and elevating him up to the head coaching position. So all these dominoes kind of fell the way that they fell. And so I think that if you're an Auburn fan, you should feel good that you got a guy that other SEC schools wanted to get. There's just not a lot of home runs, in my opinion, in this coaching cycle. And you have a lot of top schools all trying to get the same small group of coaches. So if you're Auburn, there was only so many options available. And you've seen it, like, look at Florida State. Florida State got waxed last night to a bad Florida team. And they're stuck with Mike Norvell for another year after he just went 5-7. The previous year, they won, 2 games? But they made the decision that this is not a coaching market that they want to enter. That's tough. It feels like a dead program in Tallahassee now because of that. Auburn couldn't afford to do that with Hugh Freeze. Auburn had to enter this market. So I completely understand if you're skeptical of a guy that has not won at the SEC level. But what I would counter with is that these up-and-coming coaches like this that are doing good things in conferences like the American Conference or the Sun Belt, they're going to get a chance. And sometimes they're Billy Napier. Sometimes they're not that guy. But Billy Napier was crushing it at ULL. He was crushing it. And a lot of big schools were looking at it and wanting to hire him. And when Florida hired him, they were optimistic. And a lot of schools were looking at it and saying, man, that's the guy we wanted. And a lot of people thought that was something that was going to work out. And now, as we look back on it, it seems obvious that Billy Napier was not able to handle the SEC level of football. But the flip side of that is that every great coach had to get his first shot. Every great coach had to get his first chance. Kirby Smart, when Georgia hired him, he had never even been a head coach. He was a DC. That was a gamble, was it not? He had never won a game as a head coach, and they were giving him the job at Georgia. And now he's the best coach in the game. So you never really know. I think that Alex Golesh has a lot of reasons why Auburn fans should be optimistic. We're going to get into all of those as the weeks play out. We got a long time all summer to kind of dive deep into the numbers of what Alex Golesh offense is. We still got to see how the staff plays out, who all fits where, what players stay on the roster, what players go, and then who's brought in the portal. So there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, but I think it's a good hire. We'll see. We'll know down the road. We'll know in the future if it ends up working out. But as we sit here today, as an Auburn fan, I choose to be excited. I choose to be optimistic for the future, and I'm going to support Coach Golesh because the Auburn fans are the best fans in the country. You can argue with a wall on that, and there's a lot of good fans. South Carolina fans, Tennessee fans. There's loyal fan bases out there for sure, but we all know Auburn's up there. And so I'm going to choose to support Coach Golesh, and I believe that there's a really good shot of this working out. There's a really good shot that this could work out for Auburn. And if it doesn't, we'll play devil's advocate here. If it doesn't work out, then it's not fun. And you have to go into this whole coaching search again. But as we sit here today with the data that we have currently, he's done a good job at USF. His offenses are top in the country. They're explosive. There's a lot of big plays. They're fun to watch. And now Auburn wants to see if they can make that translate to the SEC. Sometimes the group of five hire was a great coach that was just waiting to get his opportunity. And sometimes it works out like Billy Napier. I'm going to choose to give it time to see how it plays out. And in the meantime, support Coach Golesh. To me, that's the proper approach to take. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to officially get past the Hugh Freeze era. I understand that he was fired a few weeks ago, but when you still have the interim in there and, it's still all the current system and players and all that, it still kind of feels a lot like Hugh Freeze is a part of it because it still has his fingerprints all over it. Auburn now gets to move on from that disappointing era and look to the future. And I'm excited to do that. So thank you guys for watching the video. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we have tons to talk about this week right here on the Up Tempo Podcast. War Damn Eagle.